She was the queen of rock with a velvet voice that could silence stadiums. But behind that voice was an iron taste in music. And some of your favorite bands? She couldn't stand them. From punk icons to arena legends, these are the bands Linda Ronstadt publicly rejected, roasted, or just flat out refused to respect. Number 1. The Eagles. Imagine mentoring a band, only to grow to hate what they became. That's exactly what happened with Linda Ronstadt and the Eagles. In the early 70s, Ronstadt hired Glenn Frey and Don Henley as backing musicians. She helped launch their careers, then later dismissed their entire sound as formulaic and egotistical. Ouch! Ronstadt wasn't impressed with the Eagles' stadium rock anthems or their slick, commercially driven style. She felt they prioritized fame over artistry. In interviews, she criticized their machismo, image, and overpolished production, even calling their vibe self-important and joyless. For someone rooted in emotional authenticity, that was a fatal flaw. And the fallout? Permanent. Despite early ties, Ronstadt rarely acknowledged the Eagles positively again, even as they skyrocketed. She watched them morph into rock royalty, while quietly disowning their influence. Number 2. Sex Pistols. Linda Ronstadt and the Sex Pistols might as well have been from different planets, and she liked it that way. When asked about the punk explosion, Ronstadt didn't hold back. They're crude, they're sloppy, and they stand for nothing but noise. For her, punk wasn't rebellion, it was regression. She saw the Sex Pistols as a slap in the face to musical craft. In her view, Johnny Rotten's off-key sneer wasn't art. It was an insult to real singers. They scream because they can't sing, she snapped in a radio interview. That wasn't critique, it was contempt. Even the message behind punk failed to impress her. Ronstadt believed in progress through poetry, not chaos. They destroyed instruments and celebrated ignorance, she noted. That's not dangerous. That's lazy. Number 3. Led Zeppelin. Now here's where things get spicy. You'd think a vocal powerhouse like Ronstadt would at least admire the raw force of Led Zeppelin. But no, she downright detested them. Why? One word: bombast. Ronstadt felt Zeppelin's approach was all volume and no substance. She once described their music as a hammer smashing a violin. She wasn't attacking talent, she was attacking excess. They drown out any feeling, she told Rolling Stone, and call it genius. She wasn't alone. Critics in the 70s were divided on Zeppelin's mix of hard rock and mystical mumbo-jumbo. Ronstadt leaned hard on the skeptical side. For her, Robert Plant's wailing vocals lacked nuance, and Jimmy Page's guitar work, though technically impressive, left her cold. It's a lot of fire, but no warmth, she quipped. Number 4. The Monkees. Linda Ronstadt never minced words about manufactured music, and the Monkees were the poster boys for it. While millions adored their TV charm and catchy pop tunes, Ronstadt saw nothing but commercial puppets. They were created by a committee, she once scoffed. Not musicians, actors with guitars. To Ronstadt, authenticity was sacred. She felt the Monkees represented everything wrong with the industry. Image over integrity, branding over talent. Even when the band began playing their own instruments, it didn't impress her. Too little, too late, she remarked. You can't auto-tune sincerity. She believed the Monkees undermined the credibility of real artists struggling to make music from the ground up. While others fought for studio time and creative control, the Monkees had it handed to them by producers and network deals. Number 5. The Ramones. Despite their massive underground following, the Ramones got no love from Linda Ronstadt. In fact, she once referred to their music as fast food for angry teenagers. That wasn't snark, it was a statement of philosophy. To her, punk wasn't liberating, it was lazy. Ronstadt criticized the Ramones' simplistic structure and blistering pace. 2-minute songs with 3 chords and 0 thought, she told one interviewer. There's no journey, just a headache. For someone who meticulously shaped every vocal line, this kind of slapdash songwriting was borderline offensive. She especially couldn't stand the deliberate dumbness of their lyrics. While the Ramones leaned into absurdity with lines like, "Beat on the brat," Ronstadt saw nothing playful, only pointless provocation. It's rebellion without reason, she said. Noise for the sake of noise. Number 6. Kiss. Big hair. Fire breathing. Face paint. That was enough to make Linda Ronstadt roll her eyes, so hard it could have been a stage act itself. Kiss, to her, was the epitome of style over substance. Cartoon rock, she called it, for people who like their music loud and hollow. Ronstadt wasn't fooled by the pyrotechnics. She believed Kiss's stage theatrics were a smokescreen for weak songwriting. If your songs can't stand on their own, maybe you shouldn't be wearing makeup, she quipped. While millions adored rock and roll all night, Ronstadt couldn't sit through a single track without wincing. She didn't just dislike the sound, she disapproved of the spectacle. They turned concerts into circus acts, she said. It stopped being about music and started being about fireworks. And for someone who valued the purity of live performance, that was sacrilege. Number 7. Journey. You'd think a band with a voice like Steve Perry's would earn Linda Ronstadt's respect. Think again. She once dismissed Journey as sonic wallpaper. Music so polished, so predictable, it bored her to tears. Despite their massive success in the late 70s and early 80s, Ronstadt had zero patience for Journey's brand of arena rock. She described it as emotionally sterile, criticizing its overproduced sound and cookie-cutter structure. You can predict the chorus before the verse ends, she said. That's not a journey, that's a loop. What really irked her was the over-reliance on vocal acrobatics. While fans praised Steve Perry's range, Ronstadt viewed it as excessive. Singing loud isn't the same as singing well, she noted. It's not about range. It's about resonance. Number 8. Foreigner. Cold as ice. Linda Ronstadt thought that was an understatement. To her, Foreigner embodied the worst of corporate rock. Music engineered for charts, not hearts. They're the musical equivalent of beige paint, she said dryly. Technically fine. Emotionally vacant. She took issue with Foreigner's formulaic writing and over-reliance on studio gimmicks. Synths, layered vocals, artificial reverb, it all screamed assembly line to her. She believed that real rock had to come from the gut, not a boardroom. You can't feel a spreadsheet, she said. And that's what their music sounds like. Even ballads like I Want to Know What Love Is didn't sway her. They told us what love sounds like, but never what it feels like. For Ronstadt, emotional honesty mattered far more than an epic chorus or slow-build bridge. Number 9. Chicago. At first glance, Chicago's mix of horns, pop, and jazz fusion seemed like something Ronstadt might admire. But her reaction was anything but warm. She once described their sound as chaotic jazz trapped in a pop bottle. Ronstadt disliked the band's schizophrenic identity. Were they rock? Jazz? Easy listening? They sound like 5 bands trying to perform at once, she quipped. The complexity wasn't clever to her, it was cluttered. She believed their arrangements drowned out sincerity beneath a pile of brass and over-orchestrated fluff. She particularly hated the overuse of horns in otherwise emotional songs. You don't put a trumpet solo in a heartbreak song, she said bluntly. You let it breathe. To her, Chicago's attempts at fusion smothered the heart of the music. Number 10. Boston. When Boston's debut album dropped in 1976, critics hailed it as a rock masterpiece. Not Linda Ronstadt. To her, Boston was a sonic mirage, glossy on the surface but hollow underneath. It's music that sounds amazing until you try to feel it, she said. She acknowledged Tom Scholz's technical brilliance, but found it sterile. Guitars processed through 100 machines can't replace human feeling, she noted. Boston's layered harmonies and studio wizardry left Ronstadt cold. It wasn't that she hated complexity. She hated disconnection. She especially disdained how every Boston song sounded like the last. You could shuffle their whole album and never notice, she quipped. That's not consistency. That's creative fatigue. For Ronstadt, music had to evolve, breathe live. Boston's airtight production left no room for emotion. Number 11. ACDC. Some called them iconic. Ronstadt called them brutal noise with a beer belly. She had no patience for AC/DC's thunderous riffs, repetitive lyrics, or what she described as pub music in leather pants. Her verdict? Caveman rock. She wasn't just being snarky. Ronstadt genuinely detested the way AC/DC glorified aggression and excess. Songs like Highway to Hell and You Shook Me All Night Long were, in her words, testosterone tantrums. She felt they lacked nuance, depth, or any trace of artistry. What infuriated her most was their predictability. 3 chords, 1 tempo, 0 surprises, she said. Every song sounds like a parody of the last. For someone who prided herself on versatility, from opera to folk to Mexican ballads, AC/DC's creative stagnation was almost insulting. Number 12. The Clash. Here's where things get controversial. The Clash, darlings of punk, hailed as the only band that matters. Didn't matter to Linda Ronstadt. In fact, she thought they were vastly overrated. Political slogans aren't lyrics, she once quipped, and shouting isn't singing. Ronstadt respected protest music, but only when it came with craft. Dylan had poetry. Marvin Gaye had soul. The Clash, they had volume and attitude, she said. Not enough to build a legacy on. Songs like London Calling left her unimpressed. She saw them as soundtracks for angst, not art. What really bothered her was the worship they received. People called them pioneers, but what did they pioneer? Sloppy chords and righteous yelling, she asked. She believed that packaging rage and guitar fuzz didn't make it meaningful. It made it marketable. Turns out, even legends have their limits. For Linda Ronstadt, music wasn't just about fame or fandom. It was about feeling. And if a band failed to stir her soul, they earned a permanent spot on her blacklist. Think we missed someone she hated even more? Drop it in the comments, and get ready for the next artist hit list.